What does it mean when a traveler from another star chooses Mars as its stage? In the vast silence of the cosmos, Mars drifts like a red lantern suspended in the dark. For centuries, its glow has haunted the human imagination. A world close enough to touch in thought, yet forever distant in reality. It has been a mirror for myths and mathematics, a symbol of ambition and loss. Now, into this ancient dream, something stranger arrives. A visitor not born of our sun, 3I Atlas, the third interstellar object ever recorded by science. First came Oumuamua, a shard that slipped past Earth in 2017. Then Borisov, a comet carrying the chemistry of another system. But Atlas is different. Its path leads it not toward Earth but toward Mars. The image is haunting. A foreign traveler, older than the solar system itself, gliding through space to brush the orbit of a planet that has always carried humanity's deepest questions. Two mysteries colliding: Mars, the world that may once have held life; Atlas, the messenger from an unknown star. It is an intersection written across billions of years. A chance alignment that feels like destiny. One planet studied more than any other. One object studied less than any we have ever seen. The universe does not explain its choices. It only sets the stage. And now we must ask, what does it mean that a traveler from beyond the sun has chosen Mars as its theater? It began quietly, as most cosmic discoveries do. On a volcanic island rising from the Pacific, a set of telescopes scanned the night. Their purpose was vigilance. They were guardians built to detect incoming threats, designed to give humanity one last warning should a wandering asteroid set its sights on Earth. The system bore a name both urgent and poetic: Atlas, the Asteroid Terrestrial Impact Last Alert System. Each night it swept the skies from its twin stations on Haleakalā and Mauna Loa in Hawaii. What it caught in the spring of 2020 was unlike anything it had seen before. A faint streak, a moving point against the still backdrop of stars. Its motion betrayed a secret. This was no local fragment of rock drifting in orbit around the sun. Its trajectory curved outward, wider, faster, more liberated. Astronomers recognized the shape of its path: hyperbolic, the signature of an interstellar traveler. At first, the data was thin, a handful of observations stitched into a line across the heavens. But with each passing night, the evidence grew stronger. This object was not bound to the gravity of the sun. Its speed exceeded escape velocity. Its future, like its past, belonged to the deep gulf between the stars. News rippled across the astronomical community. The third interstellar object ever confirmed. The designation was formal, but the realization was profound. The third interloper after Oumuamua in 2017 and 2I Borisov in 2019. The cosmos had sent another message, and this time it was taking a different route. Oumuamua had slipped silently past Earth, its elongated body sparking endless debate over whether it was asteroid, comet, or something else entirely. Borisov, more familiar, resembled a comet, its tail releasing gases born of another planetary system. But 3I Atlas was different. Its journey did not favor Earth. Instead, its path drew it closer to Mars. That fact alone shifted the tone of discovery. Mars is not just another planet. It is the ancient mirror of human longing. The world where water once flowed, where rivers carved valleys, where perhaps life itself once stirred in the red dust. To witness an interstellar visitor sweeping past it was to watch two enigmas align. One the dream of the past, the other, the messenger of the beyond. In the weeks that followed its first detection, observatories across the globe turned their gaze toward Atlas. The Pan-STARRS telescope in Hawaii added its eyes to the effort, refining the measurements. Instruments at Mauna Loa traced its path. European observatories joined. their lenses drinking in the faint light reflected from a body that had traveled for millions of years through interstellar darkness. Data flowed not just from Earth, but from space. NASA's NEOWISE telescope, orbiting above the atmosphere, attempted to capture its faint infrared glow. Each observation was a puzzle piece, and together they drew the outline of a ghost. The trajectory became clearer. This was not a body flung from the outer edge of our solar system. Its origins lay in the void beyond. It carried with it a history we could not see. Formed around another star, ejected by distant gravitational battles, it had wandered across light years only to intersect with ours. The announcement resonated with a mix of awe and unease. Humanity was still digesting the mystery of Oumuamua, still debating whether its shape and acceleration hinted at something artificial. Borisov had reminded us of the universality of comets, of chemistry shared between stars, and now a third, each one arriving in quick succession after billions of years of silence. The cosmos was beginning to feel less empty, more deliberate. What made Atlas all the more striking was its intimacy with Mars. Models showed it would sweep through space just beyond the planet's orbit, close enough to invite speculation, far enough to remain untouchable. It was as if the universe had arranged a stage, a red world that has always symbolized human yearning, and an interstellar traveler that knows nothing of us, yet passes in perfect alignment with our ancient dream. Astronomers spoke carefully, their language bound by data. They described orbital parameters, uncertainties, eccentricities greater than 1. They published the mathematics of the hyperbolic path. Yet beneath their restraint lingered a more human question. Why here? Why now? Why Mars? The Atlas survey continued its nightly watch. Each flash of light captured against the dark was logged, processed, and measured. Its algorithms were built to warn of extinction-level events, to give Earth time to react. But in this case, the alert was of another kind. Not of danger, but of wonder. Even the instruments themselves seemed symbolic. Atlas, named for the Titan who held up the heavens, had been built to search for rocks that threatened our fragile world, and yet it had found something larger than its mission. A traveler from beyond the sun, gliding toward the orbit of a planet that has always been our mirror. The detection of 3I Atlas reminded humanity of a truth both humbling and unsettling. We are not isolated. The solar system is not a closed sanctuary. Objects from the wider galaxy can and do find their way in. Each one is a fragment of another place, another history, another sky. As its orbit was refined and its path confirmed, the story began to settle into history. 3I Atlas, a name recorded, a trajectory mapped, a visitor acknowledged. Yet the sense of mystery only deepened. Oumuamua had taught us how quickly such travelers slip away. Borisov had shown us how fragile their presence can be, dissolving as they near the sun. And Atlas had revealed that the alignment of stars and planets can sometimes feel like poetry written across the void. In the end, the discovery phase was not just about telescopes and data. It was about perception. It was about the human capacity to watch the sky and recognize when something does not belong. It was about the thin thread of awareness that connects our fragile world to the endless ocean of space. From Hawaii's volcanic peaks to observatories across the globe, astronomers had captured a moment that will not repeat. The third visitor from the stars, seen passing near the world we dream of most. And so the discovery was more than an announcement. It was a reminder that the cosmos is alive with motion, that we are not alone in its story, and that sometimes the universe speaks through chance alignments, through quiet arrivals, through fleeting travelers who show us how small and how connected we truly are. The discovery of 3I Atlas should have followed a familiar pattern. A faint speck of light, its orbit confirmed, its strangeness noted, and then its retreat into silence. That is the cycle astronomers expected. A brief encounter, a fleeting visitor from another system. But Atlas refused to remain ordinary. It broke from the script of prediction and began writing its own story. At first, it was its brightness. The light curves measured by telescopes did not behave as expected. Ordinary comets and asteroids display patterns tied to their spin, their outgassing, or their irregular shapes. Atlas brightened, then dimmed, then brightened again in ways that suggested more than rotation. Its luminosity shifted as though it were breaking apart, shedding fragments, or flaring with sudden release of volatile ices. But the timing was strange. The object was already faint, already small, and yet its variation seemed exaggerated for something of its estimated size. Some astronomers suggested it was unstable, perhaps disintegrating under the stress of its long journey. Others argued its brightness implied a highly reflective surface, unusual for an interstellar body scarred by cosmic radiation. A veil of uncertainty began to form. Its trajectory added another layer of unease. The data, when fit into orbital models, carried whispers of irregularities. The curve of its path was hyperbolic, beyond doubt, but its precise motion wavered with uncertainties. Tiny shifts that hinted at non-gravitational forces, perhaps jets of gas erupting from its surface, perhaps something less ordinary. Oumuamua, too, had carried such a mystery, its acceleration too subtle for comfort. Now Atlas seemed to echo that enigma. Each new interstellar object had arrived with lessons that unsettled. Oumuamua with its shape and acceleration. Borisov with its alien chemistry, revealing similarities yet strangeness in detail. And now Atlas with its brightness shifts and trajectory anomalies. It was as if the universe was peeling back a veil, one visitor at a time, each revealing that our solar system is not as solitary as once believed. The greatest shock was not a single measurement, but the pattern itself. 3 visitors in as many years. For centuries, no interstellar objects were confirmed. Then suddenly a cascade. Statistically, that meant one thing. They were never rare. They were always here, slipping through unnoticed, faint and fast, invisible to the instruments of earlier decades. The new generation of surveys, wider in scope and sharper in sensitivity, had simply revealed the truth. The galaxy was not distant. It was already passing through us, constantly, quietly, relentlessly. But then came the data that amplified the mystery. Mars. The red world that had been a stage for human dreams was now the focus of something stranger. Instruments aboard orbiters circling the planet began to register anomalies. It started with dust. Plumes rose unexpectedly from the Martian surface, thin clouds stretching higher than models predicted. Mars is a world where dust storms are common, where fine grains can envelop the planet for weeks. Yet these events were different, localized, brief, and strangely timed. Some appeared in the days after Atlas passed near the planet's orbital distance. Then came the atmosphere. Sensors recorded subtle variations in the thin Martian air, tiny spikes in energetic particles, unusual flows in the ionosphere, strange flickers in ultraviolet readings. These anomalies did not match the regular rhythm of solar winds or seasonal changes. Something else seemed to have disturbed the fragile balance. The reports were cautious, wrapped in the language of probability and error margins. But beneath the restraint was a whisper of unease. Could an interstellar body, passing at such a distance, have influenced the planet at all? The notion felt improbable, even impossible. A fragment of rock or ice gliding through the void should have no power over another world. Gravity alone was too weak at that distance, yet the data persisted. Dust rising, atmosphere shifting, energetic particles spiking. Some scientists suggested coincidence. Mars is a restless world. Its dust storms can awaken with little warning. Its atmosphere is thin and vulnerable to solar intrusion. Perhaps the anomalies were unrelated, their timing an accident of chance. But others entertained darker possibilities. What if Atlas carried more than rock and ice? What if it carried a magnetic field, however faint, that brushed the Martian environment? What if its passage left behind streams of dust or plasma, a trail of interstellar debris intersecting with the planet? What if, in ways not yet understood, these visitors could interact with worlds they pass, leaving invisible fingerprints? For the first time, the question of influence was raised. Not just visitation, not just passage, but interaction. An interstellar traveler leaving marks upon a planet already central to humanity's imagination. The shock was not limited to scientists. Within the community, the echoes of speculation grew louder. If interstellar objects are frequent, if they sometimes interact, what does that mean for the history of planets? Could ancient impacts have been seeded by such visitors? Could comets from other stars have once delivered organics to Earth, or disrupted climates, or even sculpted epochs of habitability? The scientific shock of Atlas was not just in its strangeness, but in the door it opened. A door into the possibility that the solar system is a porous realm, constantly exchanged with the galaxy beyond, not closed but open, not isolated, but part of a flowing current of bodies, some silent, some disruptive, all mysterious. And if the visitors are constant, then so too are the risks. The universe may not need to hurl asteroids from within our own system to threaten us. It may send them from afar, from stars unseen, carrying trajectories we cannot anticipate until they are already here. The Guardians on Mauna Loa and Haleakalā were built to watch for near-Earth asteroids, but the cosmos had reminded us that dangers can come from deeper waters. In the case of Atlas, no danger was immediate. Its path carried it near Mars, not Earth. Yet even that fact carried unease. Mars is not just a barren planet. It is the testing ground for humanity's future. Landers, rovers, and orbiters circle its skies and crawl across its plains. A single unexpected event, a burst of particles, a trail of dust, could alter instruments, damage electronics, or contaminate sensitive sensors searching for signs of life. The thought was chilling. An interstellar object, by accident or by nature, brushing the edge of another world and leaving disruption behind. A reminder that the line between cosmic mystery and planetary consequence is thin. As weeks turned to months, Atlas grew fainter. Its light retreated into the black. The anomalies on Mars faded, folded back into the planet's restless weather. The scientific papers would remain cautious, the data open to interpretation. But the impression had already been made. The shock of Atlas was not a single anomaly. It was the realization of scale. These are not rare events. They are constant. They may not pass unnoticed. They may leave traces, and they may already have shaped the history of worlds in ways humanity has yet to recognize. The story of Three-Eye Atlas left scientists facing a possibility more unsettling than any single measurement. That interstellar objects are not distant curiosities. They are active participants in the theater of planets. That Mars, with its thin air and silent deserts, may have been briefly brushed by the breath of another star. What does it mean for a world to be touched by something older than the sun? What stories lie buried in dust lifted by a passing stranger? What echoes linger in the air when a messenger from beyond the galaxy leaves no more than a faint, vanishing trail? The scientific shock of Atlas was not in its detection. It was in its defiance of expectation. It brightened when it should have dimmed. It wandered when it should have obeyed. It seemed to whisper that the solar system is not an island, but a shoreline. A place where tides from other stars can wash in, leaving debris, questions, and perhaps influence upon the worlds we study most. And so Mars and Atlas became bound in a single moment, the planet of human longing and the traveler from beyond the sun. A meeting not of contact, but of consequence. A reminder that the universe is not a silent backdrop. It is alive with arrivals. When the first reports of Three-Eye Atlas brushing near Mars faded from headlines, the story might have ended there. A brief visitor, a footnote among the rare interstellar objects that slip unseen through the solar system. Yet silence was not what followed. Instead, the red planet itself began to whisper strange things back. Orbiters circling Mars, built for the patient work of planetary science, recorded anomalies that defied easy dismissal. The data did not scream. It did not announce. It arrived quietly, as numbers, as graphs, as faint deviations from expectation. But for the scientist who read them, each anomaly deepened the sense of unease. The Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter was the first to add its voice. Equipped with the high-resolution imaging science experiment, HiRISE, it had mapped the planet's surface in exquisite detail for over a decade. Its cameras were trained on dust storms, landslides, and shifting dunes. Yet in the weeks surrounding Atlas's passage, HiRISE recorded dust patterns that refused to conform to known Martian behavior. Localized plumes appeared, then faded, leaving behind reflections in the thin atmosphere that did not match the scattering properties of ordinary storms. The dust seemed to shimmer unnaturally, as though touched by particles unfamiliar to Mars. Then MAVEN, the Mars Atmosphere and Volatile Evolution mission, detected changes in the upper atmosphere. Designed to study how the solar wind strips gases from Mars, MAVEN carried instruments tuned to the chemistry of the ionosphere. Its sensors began registering subtle anomalies, spikes in argon concentrations, unexplained fluctuations in the ratio of carbon dioxide to trace gases, shifts too abrupt to be explained by seasonal variation or solar activity. It was as if the upper layers of the Martian atmosphere had been brushed by something foreign. The anomalies did not stop there. The Perseverance rover, crawling across Jezero Crater, recorded dust reflections with its Mastcam-Z imaging system that puzzled engineers. Small bright flashes appeared in sequences of images, reflections inconsistent with the angle of sunlight or with atmospheric dust normally suspended in Martian air. These flashes were too localized, too distinct, to be dismissed as noise. Some speculated they could be the glint of tiny fragments, debris no larger than grains, perhaps left in the wake of Atlas as it swept past. Even gravity seemed to shift. Mars orbiters are tracked with extraordinary precision, their positions measured down to meters across millions of kilometers. Yet in the aftermath of Atlas's passage, navigation teams noted perturbations that resisted simple explanation. Small deviations in orbital velocity, tiny shifts in gravitational modeling. The differences were slight, measured in fractions, but they added to the growing catalog of strangeness. Each anomaly alone could be argued away. Dust storms on Mars are unpredictable. The atmosphere is notoriously dynamic, easily disturbed by solar inputs. Imaging artifacts can arise from cosmic rays striking sensors. Orbital perturbations can emerge from incomplete models of Mars's interior. But together the timing raised questions. Why did so many systems, so many instruments record deviations in the weeks surrounding the interstellar traveler's approach? Planetary scientists gathered their data. They debated in journals, at conferences, in private exchanges. Some argued coincidence. Others warned against reaching beyond the evidence. But a few pointed to the unsettling possibility that Atlas, though distant, had left behind something tangible. A trail of dust, a stream of ionized particles, a brush of debris from another star system intersecting with the Martian environment. The implications were immense. If true, it would mean interstellar objects were not silent passers-by. They were capable of touching worlds, however faintly. They could leave chemical signatures, deposit fragments, alter atmospheric conditions. They could carry materials alien not just to Mars, but to the entire solar system. The debates grew sharper. Some astrophysicists argued the anomalies were too faint to prove anything. Others countered that the faintness was precisely the point. If the evidence was so subtle and yet still visible, then perhaps these events were more common than recognized. Perhaps the solar system had been influenced countless times before, and only now, with our instruments spread across Mars, did humanity have the sensitivity to notice. Suspense deepened with each new release of data. MAVEN's ultraviolet spectrometer revealed transient emissions in the upper atmosphere, emissions inconsistent with solar forcing. The orbiter's magnetometer detected ripples, faint but measurable, as if Mars had briefly felt the brush of an invisible current. Perseverance continued to send images with unexplained glints. The anomalies refused to disappear. Scientists began constructing models. One scenario proposed that Atlas carried a faint coma, a halo of gas and dust invisible from Earth but capable of spreading along its path. If even a fraction of this material intersected with Mars's orbit, the result could be a brief shower of interstellar grains. Another model suggested plasma interactions, where the ionized trail of Atlas might have disturbed the Martian magnetosphere, already fragile and fractured compared to Earth's. Still another raised the possibility of gravitational focusing, where Mars itself concentrated passing dust into its thin atmosphere, amplifying the effect. None of the models were conclusive, all were speculative, but all converged on one truth. The events surrounding Atlas did not fit expectations. The deeper the investigation reached, the less the data conformed to known Martian behavior. Philosophical tension grew alongside scientific debate. If Mars had indeed been brushed by material from another star system, what did that mean for its history? Could ancient visitors have left similar traces unnoticed in the thin air or buried in the dust? Could interstellar objects have delivered not just disruption, but ingredients? Organic molecules, complex chemistry, seeds of possibility that might once have mingled with Mars's own potential for life. The questions unsettled because they blurred boundaries. For centuries, Mars had been imagined as part of the solar system's internal story, its mysteries framed by the sun and its planets. Now it appeared Mars might have been shaped by events beyond the sun's reach. A theater not just for local dramas, but for cosmic intersections with the galaxy at large. The more scientists studied, the more the mystery deepened. Nothing fit neatly. Each explanation carried gaps. Each anomaly resisted closure. It was as if Atlas had left behind not answers but echoes, subtle, fleeting, haunting. For the world watching from Earth, the data came filtered through reports and cautious language. Words like anomaly, deviation, uncertainty, but beneath the restraint lay something more profound. The sense that Mars had been touched, that its thin skies and silent deserts had for a moment intersected with a traveler from beyond the sun. In the halls of planetary science, debates continued. Some insisted coincidence, reminding colleagues of the dangers of pattern seeking. Others leaned into the timing, into the convergence of dust, atmosphere, reflections, and gravity. The arguments circled unresolved. Yet all agreed on one fact. The passage of Atlas had become more than a discovery. It had become a puzzle not of a single anomaly, but of convergence. Multiple instruments, multiple platforms, all whispering variations at the same time. A chorus of faint voices that together hinted at something larger, and so the investigation pressed deeper. New models were proposed, new data combed for hidden signatures. Teams reprocessed MAVEN's atmospheric readings. High-rise images were revisited pixel by pixel. Perseverance's flashes were compared across filters. The effort grew relentless, yet clarity remained elusive. The story of Three-Eye Atlas had shifted. No longer was it merely the third interstellar object discovered. No longer was it simply a hyperbolic trajectory mapped by telescopes in Hawaii. It had become an intersection between the galaxy and Mars. A collision not of impact, but of evidence. Subtle, fragmented, yet undeniable in its timing. The suspense hung heavy. The more they studied, the less it fit expectation. Each new layer of analysis dissolved certainty rather than building it. Each anomaly raised more questions than it answered. And so, like a riddle whispered across light years, Atlas remained what it had always been, a messenger from elsewhere. Carrying not clarity but mystery, Mars had been the stage. The instruments of humanity had been the audience. And the traveler had passed, leaving only traces, the kind of traces that haunt precisely because they cannot be fully explained. What does it mean for a world to be brushed by a stranger from another star? What does it mean when our instruments detect fingerprints, yet the hand is already gone? These were the questions left hanging in the silence after Atlas. Questions that pressed deeper, into both science and philosophy. In the end, the deeper investigation revealed less about the object itself and more about us, about the limits of our knowledge, about the fragility of certainty, about the recognition that in a universe alive with motion, even the most prepared instruments may find themselves staring into mysteries that refuse to yield. The message of Atlas was clear, even if the evidence was not. The cosmos is not distant. It is intimate. Its visitors are not abstractions. They are real. They pass among us. And sometimes they leave behind whispers on the worlds we dream of most. As weeks turned into months, the story of Three-Eye Atlas refused to quiet itself. Instead, it grew stranger. What had first appeared as a faint streak of light against the dark backdrop of stars began to reveal a personality more complex than science expected. Its motion was not steady. It tumbled. Telescopes across the world recorded light curves that rose and fell with irregular rhythm. The pattern spoke of rotation, but not the simple spin of a rounded body. Atlas appeared to be twisting chaotically, as though it had been fractured by ancient forces, left to wobble unevenly through the void. This tumbling revealed facets of its surface in shifting flashes. Each time it turned, its brightness changed in ways no model could fully explain. Comets are known for such variations. Their jets of gas can spin them, tilt them, make them flare with reflected sunlight. But Atlas resisted easy comparison. Its brightness shifted in ways that suggested outgassing, yet no visible tail could be resolved. Some observatories reported faint asymmetries in its coma, ghost-like veils that appeared and vanished. The object seemed to straddle a line between comet and asteroid, echoing Oumuamua's mystery while carrying its own set of contradictions. And then the focus returned to Mars. The red planet, long thought quiet in its geology, began to show subtle hints of external disturbance. Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter released new imagery suggesting fresh micro-impacts. Small, dark marks scattered across dusty plains, detected in the months following Atlas's passage. Individually, they could be dismissed as routine. Mars is no stranger to impacts from local debris, yet their clustering in time raised questions. Could fragments from an interstellar traveler have rained unseen through its thin atmosphere, striking the surface in silence? Maven sensors, too, added to the escalation. The spacecraft detected traces of compounds in the upper atmosphere, not previously recorded in such abundance. Tiny spikes of exotic ions appeared in its spectrometer data, molecules inconsistent with the chemistry expected from solar interactions. The detections were tentative, the margins slim, yet the suggestion was enough to stir debate. If these ions were remnants of interstellar material, then Mars had not only been brushed, but seeded, however lightly, by dust from beyond the sun. The possibility sent ripples through the scientific community. Mars, the ancient dream of humanity, might now carry traces of alien chemistry, compounds not native to its soil, not produced by its geology, but imported by a visitor from another star. The idea was unsettling, not because it implied danger, but because it suggested connection. Mars, already central to human imagination, might now be bound to a narrative larger than the solar system itself. The escalation was not only scientific, it was philosophical. For decades, Mars had been imagined as a quiet world, its great volcanoes long dormant, its rivers reduced to dry channels, its atmosphere stripped, leaving a fragile veil of gases. It was considered geologically dead, a planet of memory rather than motion. And yet here it was, showing signs, however faint, of interaction with something from beyond. The ancient stillness was broken by whispers from the galaxy. In the eyes of many, the meaning deepened. Mars is not only the stage for our search for life, not only the testing ground for rovers and future astronauts, it may now be a meeting point where humanity's future intersects with the wider galaxy's past. The fate of Mars, and perhaps of our exploration of it, could be linked to bodies that do not belong to this star at all. The escalation became more dramatic when models were run backward in time. Tracing Atlas's orbit suggested it had been wandering through the solar system for months before its detection. Some projections placed its trajectory perilously close to the orbits of other inner planets. It had not struck Earth nor Venus, but the possibility lingered. If it had carried fragments, if it had shed dust along its hyperbolic path, then Mars may not be the only world brushed by its presence. The difference was that Mars had the instruments to notice. Planetary scientists argued fiercely. Skeptics insisted the anomalies could be explained by coincidence, by noise in the data, by overinterpretation of statistical fluctuations. Believers countered that science itself begins in anomalies, that only by entertaining what does not fit can new understanding emerge. They pointed to Oumuamua's unexplained acceleration, to Borisov's alien chemistry, and now to Atlas's contradictions. Each interstellar object seemed to carry lessons that unsettled more than they clarified. And always, the questions returned to Mars. Perseverance continued its patient exploration of Jezero Crater, its instruments tuned for signs of past habitability. Yet even here, the story of Atlas lingered. If exotic dust had settled into the Martian environment, could the rover's sensors detect it? Could fragments lie hidden in the regolith, waiting to be uncovered by future missions? Would human explorers one day step onto Mars and unknowingly walk across grains that began their journey around another star? The narrative grew heavier with philosophical weight. Mars is the frontier of human destiny, the world most likely to host the first permanent colony beyond Earth. Generations have looked to its red glow and imagined cities beneath its skies. Yet the revelations of Atlas reminded us that Mars may not belong solely to the solar system's story. Its history, its chemistry, perhaps even its potential future, may already be entangled with visitors from the galaxy. What does it mean for a world to serve as both cradle and crossroads? What does it mean for the planet chosen as humanity's next home to also be the recipient of messages carried by travelers older than the sun? The escalation of mystery deepened these reflections. The tumbling motion of Atlas defied simple categorization. Its brightness flares teased at hidden processes. Its lack of a stable tail made it neither fully comet nor asteroid. Mars's anomalies hinted at contact without proof, evidence without certainty. The more scientists studied, the less they could declare, and perhaps that was the most dramatic revelation of all. The story of Three-Eye Atlas was not one of answers, but of erosion, an erosion of certainty. Every expectation of how an interstellar object should behave was worn down by contradiction. Every confidence in Mars's stillness was shaken by hints of external influence. The cosmos, it seemed, was reminding humanity that knowledge is not mastery, that discovery is not closure, that the closer we look, the more the universe recedes into mystery. In this way, Atlas became not just an object of study, but a mirror. A mirror held up to human ambition, to our vision of Mars as a future home. We see in its red deserts the possibility of belonging. But Atlas reminds us that belonging is fragile. Mars may not be a sanctuary untouched. It may already be shaped by forces we cannot control, and so the escalation is both scientific and existential. Mars, the lantern of the night sky, once thought a quiet relic, now appears alive with whispers from beyond. Its fate may be linked not only to our machines, our rovers, or our future colonies, but to objects wandering between stars, to debris cast off in other solar systems, to visitors whose presence is fleeting yet profound. What does it mean for humanity to dream of settling a world that may already carry the touch of other suns? What does it mean to build a future on a planet that may not be entirely our own? The mystery deepens with each passing year. Atlas fades into the darkness, its light too faint now for telescopes to follow. Yet its legacy remains. In the tumbling of its body, in the brightness of its flare, in the dust that may have settled into Martian skies, and in the questions it leaves behind. Mars is no longer only a world of ancient rivers and frozen volcanoes. It is now a place where the solar system has intersected with the wider galaxy, a frontier not just for human exploration, but for cosmic convergence. And if Atlas is one visitor among many, then this may be only the beginning. The deeper scientists looked at Three-Eye Atlas, the more it seemed to resist belonging to any category. Its light shifted without pattern. Its tumbling motion spoke of fracture and violence. Its path defied complete prediction. And the whispers of anomalies around Mars only sharpened the sense that this was no ordinary traveler. In the face of uncertainty, science turns to theory, to frameworks of possibility, stretched from the solid ground of data to the far edges of speculation. Atlas became a canvas on which astronomers, planetary scientists, and philosophers of the cosmos painted their interpretations. The first and most grounded theory held that Atlas was a fragment, perhaps once part of a larger body, a planet or moon orbiting another star. Long ago, in some distant system, that world may have endured catastrophe, a gravitational upheaval, a collision of giants, a star shedding its planets during instability. From that chaos, fragments would have been cast into the interstellar sea. Atlas could be one of them, a shard drifting through darkness for millions, perhaps billions of years before intersecting with our sun. Its tumbling motion supported this view. A body broken, its spin uneven, its shape jagged, reflecting light in asymmetric bursts. If so, Atlas was a relic not just of another star, but of a lost world, a piece of a surface that may once have known warmth, chemistry, or even seas. In its dust could linger clues about the geology of planets we will never see. This theory grounded Atlas in familiarity, while expanding the scale of its meaning. Others turned toward the chemistry. Borisov, the second interstellar visitor, had revealed itself as a comet, releasing cyanide and carbon monoxide, molecules fundamental to the chemistry of life. Atlas, with its inconsistent brightness and possible faint outgassing, hinted at a similar nature, though one far stranger. If it carried unusual ices or compounds not commonly seen in our solar system, it might represent an entirely new category of comet. Some speculated that such a body could carry prebiotic compounds, the raw ingredients of biology. The thought was tantalizing. If comets from other stars can carry organics, then interstellar visitors are not just curiosities. They are couriers. Couriers that may deliver molecules across the galaxy, seeding worlds with the chemistry of life. In this view, Atlas was not simply a traveler. It was a messenger. A fragment carrying the whisper of another origin of life, wandering from one solar system to another. Yet even as grounded theories persisted, darker and more speculative interpretations began to resurface. Oumuamua had opened the door. Its elongated shape, its unexplained acceleration had led some to suggest, however reluctantly, that it might be artificial. Not natural debris, but a probe. A fragment of technology sent or abandoned by another intelligence. Mainstream science rejected the idea for lack of evidence, yet the strangeness of Oumuamua ensured it was never fully silenced. Now Atlas, with its tumbling unpredictability and its near-pass of Mars, revived that whisper. Could this too be something constructed? If so, its strange trajectory near the red planet could not be ignored. Was it chance or something more deliberate? The thought lingered at the edges of debate. Not embraced, yet not dismissed entirely. For the anomalies around Mars, the dust, the atmosphere, the flashes of light, suggested influence, however faint. And if influence could not be explained naturally, the imagination reached outward, into the possibility of intention. Few scientists openly embrace the artificial probe hypothesis. Yet in the background of conferences and private discussions, it surfaced. Atlas was not large. It did not radiate signals. But neither did it behave as expected. And sometimes speculation survives precisely because reality refuses to fit the models. At the farthest edge of theory lay something stranger still. Some physicists speculated whether interstellar debris might interact differently with local conditions due to unknown physics. One idea, tentative and fragile, suggested quantum-scale interactions with dark matter. In this hypothesis, objects wandering across interstellar space might accumulate subtle influences from the invisible matter that fills the galaxy. When they entered the environment of a star system like ours, those influences could manifest as irregular motion or unexplained brightness changes. Dark matter remains one of the greatest mysteries in physics. It cannot be seen, but its gravitational presence shapes galaxies. If interstellar bodies could carry traces of its hidden nature, then Atlas might represent more than rock or ice. It might be a messenger of invisible forces, revealing properties of the universe no telescope has yet measured directly. These ideas, fragments of planets, interstellar chemistry, artificial probes, exotic physics, unfolded across a spectrum of credibility. Each theory carried weight, each faced skepticism, yet none could fully explain the totality of what was observed. None could erase the anomalies that clung to Mars or the strangeness of Atlas's motion. The scientific community balanced itself carefully. The mainstream leaned toward natural explanations, a fractured body, a volatile rich comet, statistical coincidence in Mars's data. Yet in the shadow of certainty lay questions that would not fade. Why did its brightness behave so erratically? Why did multiple instruments around Mars report deviations at the same time? Why did its passage feel like escalation, rather than the ordinary fading of a comet into distance? The tension hung heavy, because at its heart, the story was no longer about what Atlas was. It was about what it meant. A fragment of a shattered world would remind us that planets are fragile, that their histories can be scattered across light years. An interstellar comet rich in organics would hint that life's seeds are everywhere, that the galaxy itself may be fertile. An artificial probe, however unlikely, would force us to confront the possibility of intelligence beyond Earth. And dark matter interactions would suggest that even the physics we trust may not tell the whole story of the universe. Mars, the silent witness, became the pivot of these speculations. The red planet carried the faint signs, the dust, the atmosphere, the flashes. It served as a canvas for theories, yet offered no conclusion. It remained as it always has been. Mysterious, provocative, unwilling to yield its secrets easily. In the end, the theories surrounding Atlas revealed more about humanity than about the object itself. They revealed our hunger for meaning, our willingness to stretch from geology to biology to cosmology in pursuit of explanation. They revealed the philosophical gravity of Mars, how every anomaly around it feels magnified, because we see it not only as a world of science, but as our future home. And that is where the tension rests. Mars is no longer just a destination for rovers. It is the stage for humanity's next chapter, yet it may already be entangled with visitors from beyond. Its atmosphere touched, its soil seeded, its silence broken by interstellar couriers. None of the theories fully explain what Mars revealed in the wake of Atlas. None close the mystery. Instead, they deepen it. For every natural explanation, a gap remains. For every speculation, doubt persists. The story refuses closure. What does it mean when no theory fits? What does it mean when the universe places a riddle at the doorstep of humanity's future home? Theories and speculations orbit like planets around a star, each with their own pull, none sufficient to anchor the truth. Atlas has faded into the night, beyond the reach of telescopes, yet the questions remain. Mars, the ancient dream, may already be bound to mysteries written beyond the sun. And the silence it leaves is not empty. It is charged, waiting. The mystery of Three-Eye Atlas did not fade with its vanishing light. It deepened. And as its trail dissolved into the dark, science turned its instruments, its models, and its collective imagination toward the riddle it had left behind. The James Webb Space Telescope was among the first to take aim. Orbiting far beyond the moon, cooled in the shadow of its vast sunshield, Webb carried the power to detect faint signatures invisible to ground-based observatories. Its instruments searched for the chemical fingerprints of Atlas while the object was still within reach. The data it captured hinted at complex volatiles not easily classified. Traces of carbon-bearing molecules flickered in its infrared spectrum. They suggested chemistry older than the solar system, a recipe formed under the light of another star. Closer to Mars, the European Space Agency's ExoMars Trace Gas Orbiter added another layer to the puzzle. Built to sniff out faint signatures in the Martian atmosphere, it reported subtle deviations in methane and other trace gases during the months of Atlas's approach. The measurements were uncertain, their sources debated, but the timing was uncanny. Was this the signature of geologic processes awakening on Mars, or the faint breath of interstellar dust dissolving into a thin sky? The anomalies demanded more than observation. They demanded testing. Proposals began to surface for missions dedicated to seeking out the fingerprints of interstellar dust on Mars. One concept envisioned capturing material in orbit, skimming the edge of Mars's atmosphere for particles that may have settled from Atlas's path. Another suggested sample return missions, collecting grains from Martian regolith in search of isotopic ratios unknown to the solar system. Each plan was ambitious, costly, and years away from realization. Yet the fact that such missions were being seriously considered revealed how deeply the mystery had taken hold. On Earth, the investigation unfolded across supercomputers. Teams of astrophysicists constructed simulations, feeding Atlas's orbital data into models of celestial mechanics and interstellar chemistry. They tested how volatile ices might sublimate under solar radiation, how fragments might tumble chaotically through space, how dust trails could interact with Mars's atmosphere. Thousands of variations were run, each attempting to reproduce the peculiar light curve, the irregular spin, the unexplained anomalies. And yet, like a riddle carved in the stars, no model captured everything at once. The challenge was not only technical, it was philosophical. Atlas forced scientists to confront the fragility of their certainties. The more instruments turned toward it, the less the data aligned with expectation. The closer the models pressed, the more the gaps revealed themselves. It was a reminder that science is not a fortress of answers, but a pursuit carried through mystery. Around the world, collaboration intensified. American telescopes shared data with European counterparts. Asian observatories contributed nights of tracking. Mars missions from different agencies exchanged findings. In an age often divided by politics and competition, the cosmos had once again shown its power to unite. For mysteries that destabilize certainty invite not isolation, but community. The puzzle of Atlas became a shared pursuit, its answers belonging not to one nation or one laboratory, but to humanity as a whole. At the same time, Webb continued its silent vigil. Though Atlas faded beyond its reach, Webb turned its eyes to other targets, searching for interstellar bodies yet to be discovered. Its power promised that when the next messenger entered the solar system, humanity would be better prepared. The Vera C. Rubin Observatory in Chile, soon to begin its all-sky survey, promised a revolution of detection. Where once interstellar objects were thought rare, Rubin's vast nightly scans may reveal them as common, a steady stream flowing invisibly through the dark. This was the new frontier. Not only the study of planets, but of the interstellar debris that brushes against them. Not only the mapping of our solar system, but of its porous edges, where visitors arrive without warning. Atlas had opened the door. Now science was stepping through. And yet, beneath the progress and the proposals, the reflection remained. Why does humanity chase questions that unsettle? Why invest resources into objects that pass once and never return? The answer lies not only in curiosity, but in identity. These visitors remind us of our place in the galaxy. They remind us that we are not isolated, that the boundary of the sun is not the boundary of the story. When the James Webb Telescope captured the faint infrared glow of Atlas, it was more than data. It was a glimpse of chemistry that may have formed before Earth itself. When the ExoMars orbiter reported trace gases shifting, it was more than noise. It was the suggestion that Mars too may be written into a galactic narrative. When supercomputers ran endless models, it was more than mathematics. It was humanity grappling with the recognition that the cosmos is deeper, stranger, and more connected than we had believed. Each tool, each mission, each model became part of a collective effort to answer a question larger than Atlas itself. What does it mean for interstellar objects to pass among us? And what role do they play in the history of worlds? Do they carry fragments of lost planets? Do they deliver the seeds of life? Do they whisper of physics yet to be known? The pursuit is not easy. The answers do not come quickly. But the hunger remains, sharpened by the very act of not knowing. Humanity is drawn to mysteries that destabilize certainty, for they remind us that knowledge is not the end of wonder, but its beginning. Atlas may never yield its secrets fully. Its fragments may never be collected. Its anomalies may remain forever unresolved. Yet in chasing it, humanity has built new collaborations, refined new instruments, and expanded new questions. Its legacy is not only in its passage near Mars, but in the momentum it has given to science itself, in the quiet halls of observatories, in the humming cores of supercomputers, in the patient arcs of orbiters circling Mars. The investigation continues. A visitor from beyond the sun has left, but its echoes linger. They linger in the tools we have built. They linger in the models we refine. They linger in the questions we cannot silence. And so the story of Atlas becomes not only a chapter in astronomy, but a reflection of humanity's hunger. A hunger to chase even when certainty slips away. A hunger to listen, even when the messenger fades into silence. A hunger to know, even when the answer is not given. There are moments in the human story when the universe seems to pause and place two mysteries side by side. Mars, the ancient dream, glowing in the night sky. Atlas, the wandering messenger, drifting from another star. Their paths did not collide in dust and fire, but in meaning. For a brief time, one became a mirror for the other, and humanity found itself caught in the reflection. Mars has always been more than a planet. It is a lantern of desire, a world that has shaped myth and mathematics, the stage upon which we project both fear and longing. For centuries, its red glow carried the weight of war and gods. In modern times, it became a symbol of exploration, the place where human boots may one day press into alien soil. It is not only a planet we study, it is a dream we carry. Atlas, by contrast, is everything Mars is not. a fragment of elsewhere, a traveler with no home in our system. A reminder that the galaxy itself is alive with motion, filled with objects that slip through unseen. Unlike Mars, it is not the object of human ambition, but of human humility. It is older than our world, its journey carved not by intention, but by chance. Where Mars is familiar, Atlas is unknowable. Where Mars is the stage of human imagination, Atlas is the interruption of cosmic reality. And yet, for a moment, their stories overlapped. Mars, the chosen world of our future, brushed by something from beyond the sun. Two mysteries colliding in silence, in a kind of cosmic poetry. The meaning of this encounter cannot be measured in brightness curves or orbital elements alone. It lies in what it reveals about boundaries. For centuries, humanity imagined its solar system as a closed circle, a stage set apart from the galaxy. Earth, Mars, the planets, and the sun, a self-contained story. But Atlas has reminded us that the boundary is thin, that dust and fragments drift freely between stars, that the ingredients of worlds are not confined by light years. If interstellar bodies can deliver volatiles, ices, or even organic compounds, then the chemistry of life is not local. It is universal. It drifts like pollen across the galaxy, settling wherever conditions allow. Earth may not be unique in its inheritance. Mars too may already carry grains seeded by distant stars. The dream of life may not belong to one planet or one system, but to the galaxy itself. For Mars, this changes everything. It has long been the mirror of our ambition, a place where we seek to plant flags, to build habitats, to prove that humanity can extend beyond its birthplace. But if Atlas has left even the faintest trace, Mars becomes more than a frontier. It becomes a record of cosmic exchange, a world not just shaped by its own history, but touched by the journeys of others. It becomes both destination and archive, a planet that may carry evidence of the galaxy's continuity. The philosophical weight is profound. What does it mean to dream of settling a world that may already carry the chemistry of another star? What does it mean to claim Mars as a future home if its soil is not only Martian, but interstellar? Humanity may be stepping onto a stage that was written not by one star, but by many. In this way, Mars and Atlas together blur the lines of belonging. Earth, Mars, and the galaxy are no longer separate stories. They are chapters of the same book, written in dust, ice, and silence. The solar system is not a fortress. It is porous. It breathes. It exchanges. It participates in a larger current that flows through the Milky Way. This realization carries both awe and unease. Awe because it reveals a universe more connected than ever imagined. Unease because it dissolves the sense of control. If interstellar bodies are constant visitors, then the solar system is not isolated. It is vulnerable. Vulnerable not only to catastrophe, but to influence, to contamination, to surprise. Yet perhaps this is also a gift. For in that vulnerability lies connection. Life itself may owe its origins to such visitors. Molecules drifting between stars, delivered by comets, by fragments, by messengers like Atlas. Earth may not have birthed its story alone. It may have inherited chapters written elsewhere. Mars now stands at the threshold of this realization. Its deserts may carry the faint traces of another world's debris. Its thin skies may have been brushed by particles older than the sun. And if humanity one day plants its future there, it will not be building upon untouched ground. It will be building upon a world already folded into a galactic narrative. The deeper meaning of Atlas is not only about what it was, but about what it revealed. That the galaxy is not distant, that its history does not flow around us but through us, that every world we study, every planet we dream of, may already carry the fingerprints of strangers we will never meet. And so the question shifts. It is no longer simply, what can Mars teach us about its own history? It is, what does Mars now tell us about the universe itself? What message lies in the silence of a red planet brushed by a traveler from another star? When telescopes tracked Atlas, They measured numbers. But when humanity reflects upon it, we measure meaning. Mars and Atlas together remind us that exploration is not only about extending human presence. It is about recognizing human belonging within a larger whole. We do not stand apart from the galaxy. We are participants in its exchanges, inheritors of its dust, children of its fragments. The encounter between Mars and Atlas will pass into the archive of astronomy as data points, light curves, models. But it will also linger in philosophy as a metaphor of two mysteries converging. One, the ancient dream of humanity. The other, the messenger of elsewhere. Together, they reveal that the boundary between us and the stars is thinner than we ever imagined. In the end, Atlas is gone. Its tumbling body has vanished into distance, retreating into the dark from which it came. Mars continues to circle the sun, its deserts unbroken, its skies thin and restless. Yet their intersection remains, not in their matter, but in their meaning. When something from beyond the sun touches the world we long to inhabit, the question is no longer what Mars can teach us. The question is what the universe itself is trying to tell us.